Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And we have a very special guest today who we were only going to bring on for a segment, but he's here. He's just chilling in one of the Zoom boxes right now. He is somebody very near and dear, a massive part of the Women's Soccer Show team. I don't really think we could do this without him at all. Mike, who edits this podcast, is here. Mike, is this your first time on the show? And welcome.
Yeah, it is the first time on the show. Hi.
Hello. For some reason, I thought when we all met up during the Euros, there was like something that we did.
No, I think
not.
I just lurked in the back. I was in the room when you did the live episode, but I wouldn't have said anything.
I wouldn't have said anything. I learned on that Euros trip that it is like an American thing to be really, I don't know, excited? Or that's what you all label us as?
The way I've always looked at it is that like all our as British people, or our people who get excited about stuff, who like want things to get better, all just went to America like 200 years ago and then left us here.
Yep.
Just like, no, we're happy on our cold rock. No, thank you.
Stiff upper lip and all that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things getting better and having hope for the future, you are here, Mike, as a Brighton fan to talk about Brighton.
I am, yes.
I will make the disclaimer that obviously Mike is a Brighton fan. He's speaking for himself as a Brighton fan, so please don't come at him on Twitter unless it's something positive, and then you're welcome to.
Or you need something edited.
Yeah, all that.
If you wanna hit Mike up, if you need something edited, at Monkey Hill Media, we're gonna get that out of the way. We won't put it at the end. Let's put that first. And if you listen to our podcast on a regular basis, you'll hear that at the end of every single episode.
So, the reason we brought you on is because we are going to talk about, in part, the Manchester City-Brighton game that happened this weekend. It was a win for Manchester City at 3-1, which seems to be compounding on Brighton's woes. You had a small bounce of new manager in the 5-4 victory over West Ham, and then it's sort of just gone down since. So let's start actually with Brighton. I thought it was a positive start for you guys. You definitely came into your own in the second half, but the problem you've got is you've got a lot of youngsters who need a little bit more coaching. I'm thinking of poor Poppy Patterson, who got absolutely carved open by the Man City strikers. What is your hope feeling for the poor Brighton side in this squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're pretty right there. It's a young team in a lot of ways. Like, as you say, there's good young players there. Katie Robinson is a cracking looking young player, got her England call up, well deserved. Poppy Pattinson, I've seen flashes of. She seems good. She seems solid. There's a player in there. Georgia Fox is on loan. She's good. She's, again, a player in there. There's plenty of players around the squad who are kind of exciting players to look for the future. I just don't know how many WSL ready players there are in the squad. I mean, I think there are 11 really, and some weeks we get to play all 11, but most weeks we just don't.
Because there's no question that Brighton, you guys can score goals. You know, we saw it in the 5-4 victory over West Ham, the fact that you got 3 against Liverpool. So there is an ability to score goals in that team, but defensively, I think, is probably one of your weakest points. And that saddens me because Megan Walsh has been one of the strongest keepers in the WSL for a long time. But she always seems to end up in these teams that she doesn't have the right defensive backline in front of her, which means that she leaks goals. We saw that when she was at Yeovil, and we're seeing that now at Brighton. So do you have the time to gel those backline players with Walsh? Are you going to have to wait for a new manager, or what are you looking for? Like, what is it that you need?
I really do just think it's players. We just need more bodies to play. I mean, you look at the back line in the City game. We had teenagers at fullback in both positions. We had Victoria Williams, who is a legend, club legend, stalwart, incredible player, one of my favourite players to watch. And Kaylee Green at centre-back, who, again, very capable player. Is she a WSL top-level centre-back at this stage? I don't know how many, in the women's game kind of moving forward, I don't know how many players can play as a striker for their country and a defender for their club. I don't know.
You're Rachel Daly.
Yeah, and again, it's not a criticism of Kaylee Green to say she's not Rachel Daly. I think that's fair.
So where's where's the balance then? Like, or where do you go? Is it kind of, is it having the club be more attractive to get more players in? And if so, like, how does the club get more attractive for players to be brought in? Or is it developing and investing in developing players for the future, however that may look? Maybe it's in the academies, maybe it's at this level, but with a different coach. Like, where does that go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is probably developing players to then be moved on to new places. I mean, if we want to talk about men's football for a second, if Brighton are pushing this one club kind of model, that's what the men's team do. They bring in players who are kind of off the radar that the big teams aren't seeing, and they bring them in, and then they take them and they sell them for a profit. And I don't see why the women's team couldn't do the same thing. I mean, you could argue that's already kind of happening. Whether that's enough for a team in the WSL to kind of take on that role willingly, I don't know, but
yeah, because my thing is like Brighton. I mean, Brighton finished I think 6th 2 years ago, 7th last year. They've been a consistently mid-table team, but it's really fallen off, and so there has to be something about how the club is actually being managed, in that there's no plan for future growth, because we're not seeing any.
Yeah, and I think that is the plan, as far as I can see from the outside. That seems to be the plan. Every time Brighton come up in sort of the mainstream media, they get a lot of press for their new training facility that they spent a lot of money on. That seems to come up every time, whatever happens, and they get a lot of credit for that. And I think that is kind of the plan moving forward, seems to be to kind of hold station, keep hold of what we've got, and then try and bring in these new players and make players better. I think Hope leaving was kind of a wake-up call that you can't just completely abandon the here and now. So I don't know if... my hope is that this last summer, where all the players left and not enough players joined, is a blip rather than a pattern moving forward, and that hopefully in January and next summer that balance can kind of be addressed a little bit and bring in a few more players than we let go. Because I think I said to you guys at the time, like, none of the players apart from Maya Letizia that left I was particularly upset about. I think they were all players who had played well for us, but maybe weren't the players we needed to make that next step on. I say apart from Maya Letizia, who was a different story altogether. And so I think the players we brought in are good and can help us make that step. They're just not enough of them. It's kind of the simple fact of it.
Yeah.
Do you think Hope stepping down was the right decision?
I don't know. I think it's probably the right decision for her. I don't understand why. I mean, she doesn't seem like the person who's going to come out and start slagging off the board and leave a trail of scorched earth behind her. But yeah, I can totally see why she decided, what am I getting out of this? I'd have loved for her to stick around. I think the results that we've had since would have probably happened with Hope in. Not that Amy Merrick isn't doing her job, but I've not seen any kind of radical reinvention since then. It's still mostly the same. It's certainly mostly the same players, because that's all there is available. But it's still kind of playing that same system, and I think it's just going to keep being a case of we'll get the points against the teams we feel like we can beat, like a West Ham, or get some points against Liverpool. But just
shots fired, Mike. Shots fired. Get the points against
teams.
West Ham? What?
There are bogey teams, so I'm
just
very
in the
aware
sense,
of that.
more in the sense that, like, any of that top four, any of those top four sides, we just seem to have. It just seems to be a case of they can rock up and write the number of goals they want to score on a bit of paper beforehand and say we're gonna take 7 today. That seems like enough. There doesn't seem to be any kind of. There's no plan to go out and nick something, or it never feels like there's an upset coming when a big team come to Brighton. It seems very kind of set out, unless Megan Walsh has a worldie, which she's just not in the form to have at the moment. That is the game plan. Is hope Megan does something special, and if that doesn't happen, we're going to concede 6 goals.
So you've dodged the bullet of Willie Kirk, who's already gone to Leicester. Who do you want to step into Hope's shoes, and who do you want to bring in January other than just anybody?
So I think the Telegraph reported this morning that the former Bayern Munich manager, Jens Schauer, that's a very women's soccer show, he's apparently the guy. I can't say I know too much about. Maybe one of our listeners who is more across the Frauen Bundesliga than me can tell me if I should be excited about that. But yeah, ideally I'd like a coach who can kind of bring these young players through to perform at that level. I think there's clearly talent in the squad that can kind of be got at. I think in terms of players bringing in, we need another centre-back who can pair well with Tori Williams. Emma Kullberg is a clearly a good player. She's an international. I don't know. I think she's probably a better fullback than she is a centre-back in a back four. So yeah, centre-back would be the key thing. And another striker who can do some of the running for Dan Carter. She just doesn't have the legs that she once had. The player that she was at Arsenal just isn't there. And you saw that really well in the West Ham game compared to the City game, that a player less confident under the press, like the West Ham centre-backs, were vulnerable to Carter's pressing, whereas the Man City centre-backs were not fazed at all by the pressing of Carter. She's technically a very good presser, but just physically just isn't there anymore in that way. So yeah, I would say another striker who can do some of that running and do the hard yards.
My question might be, I really hope it's not going to be this obvious answer, but how do you avoid relegation? Because you're sitting in second to last, just above Leicester City. Obviously, at this point, the 2 wins and 1 draw that you have are really, that's what's getting you out of it. But I guess the question is, will it come down to the final game of the season is Brighton versus Leicester City? Will it come down to that, Mike?
I don't think so.
Or do you think you'll be able to build? Okay.
I don't think it will. I think Brighton will have enough, or maybe Leicester won't have enough. I think would be the.
I was going to say because of you or because of Leicester.
I think probably because I think both, but mainly because of Leicester. I think they've not got enough. I'm going to be at the Brighton Leicester game at the King Power in January, so I'll find out then, I guess, and be embarrassed. But no, I mean, I think there's enough there. This squad has promise, and I think they can get enough points against beatable teams to stay up, with only one team going down.
So I feel like we talked a lot about what is going wrong, because there's that's kind of just what the conversation has to be around Brighton right now. Let's not pretend they're sitting in third place, right? What do you like tactically or otherwise? What do you like that Brighton has going for it right now?
I like Katie Robinson. I like everything about her. She's proper bright young star who I think will go far. I'm kind of a little worried that she's going to be elsewhere by the end of the year, because that is a little bit of a concern.
That would be a shame. That's the part I don't like about the WSL, is once there's a star shining in the bottom or even mid-table teams, they get scooped up, and it hurts the league a little bit.
It does, but there's always one team it happens to. For years it was Sunderland, and then it was Bristol, and now it seems to be Brighton.
Yeah, and there are other good things. As I say, I don't think the 11, when we play our best 11, I think it's a pretty good team. I think I've been really excited by the way Guamin Lee has moved back into sort of a quasi false 6 role. Her first touch is amazing. If you get a chance to go watch Brighton, just watch them ping balls into Lee and her take it on the turn and play it just over and over again. If we had a second player who could play like her and take those balls in and move it, and they could pass to each other, it would be a different story. Which is why I think we need that striker who can do that running to take advantage of that. I texted my brother, what should I say when I come on the Woso show, and he was like, tell him all that Lee has the best touch in the league, and I think he might be right.
I love that.
I think probably one of the biggest problems Brighton have, especially in this game, is you don't have Chloe Kelly, because Chloe Kelly was absolutely phenomenal in this game. I think, to be honest, even though she didn't get a goal, she got an assist, a couple of assists. She was absolutely everywhere on that pitch. And by the time the manager considered it was done at 65 minutes and took her off, I think he was right. That was your biggest issue, was your players were so inexperienced they couldn't handle someone like Chloe Kelly, who had an absolutely phenomenal game. Because I still don't think Manchester City are a put together team. I still think they're like an 11 individuals where they've got some great players and some okay players.
Yes. Definitely. Maybe now more than ever that we've seen them. And I mean, Allie, we were talking maybe even last week or maybe the week before about how Chloe Kelly's game is just it's like it started with that goal in the Euros and it has just skyrocketed, and she is definitely playing some of the best football in all of the WSL right now. And it's a shame that Beth Mead, tore her ACL and got injured, but it is a massive benefit to the England squad that Chloe Kelly is in the form that she's in right now, because you can just slot her right into that Beth Mead position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I was Manchester City, I would up my game heavily, because come end of the season, it's going to be like Kira Walsh. She'll be gone. Somebody in Europe will snap her up.
What do you think, Mike? You think she's gone?
Yeah, I mean, if as you say, if City don't get their act together, I mean, how long are any of those good players going to hang around with other players heading out the door? I mean, City were maybe even worse than Brighton for losing top-level players. Like, they're the only kind of comparable team, really.
It's been a while since we've talked negative about Gareth Taylor on this podcast, so I feel like it's okay to do now. And I think that the change that needs to happen at City to retain those players is a new manager. I think that says it all.
Did someone say Hope Powell to Man City? Did someone say that?
That could be really interesting, Mike. I think Allie and I were talking about she'll probably go to the championship, but I would love to see Hope Powell at City.
I think we need that nurturing manager at City, because they have some young talent that's coming through, and they need someone who's going to bring them together. Because like I said, I watched the highlights of the Brighton Man City game, and it was literally 11 players out there. There was very little fluidity between the teams. I still say defensively they were shaky. Like, yeah, Dan Carter couldn't threaten them as much, but they were definitely made some awkward decisions and conceded that last minute goal from Lee in that scramble. So they may be fourth, but they're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, they don't feel like putting together a title challenge at any point, do they? I wonder if they need a manager who can get them and say, we're going in 2 years, Arsenal and Chelsea are going to drop and we're going to be there to pick up the pieces, rather than pretending that they're still a top 2 team. Maybe that's too harsh.
I don't think it's too harsh at all. I think it's right on point. Yeah, I feel like they're pretending, and United has completely usurped them for whatever spot they were really holding on to in the top 3. United has completely usurped them. Should we go around the world, around the world?
Over to Germany, where the big game happened this weekend. Wolfsburg took on second place Eintracht Frankfurt and thrashed them 5-0. This now pushes Frankfurt into third place as Bayern Munich beat Hoffenheim to jump into second.
Over to France, Lyon hold on to the top spot with a very convincing 8-0 win over Dijon. Second place PSG beat Derby rivals Paris FC 1-0 to keep the race up for the top spot.
To north of the border now, Scotland, the battle for the top spot is hotting up. Rangers beat Glasgow women 10-0 this weekend, but can only hang on to second place. A Glasgow City win helped them remain at number 1, 2 points clear.
Finally, over to Australia. The A-League is warming up with the Western United netting 3 wins out of 3 to top the table. 4 teams are tied with 6 points apiece. As always, this is a league to keep an eye on.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Over to the NWSL. I feel like we had a really positive, amazing conversation about the NWSL last time.
We did.
Yeah, and now, unfortunately, we have to talk about the NWSL doing NWSL things. I think this can be misconstrued as there's drama and we're talking about drama. And I guess I just want to say up top that that's not why we're talking about this. We're not talking about it just because it's like something exciting that happened. Obviously it is, but this pertains to all of the larger issues that the NWSL is facing around how to make this a safer league for players. So let's get into it. As quickly as we can, let's go through the sequence of events. Merritt Paulson, who I think we've all heard his name, but for those who don't know, Merritt Paulson was the owner of the Portland Thorns. He released a statement saying that he was going to sell the team, and the soccer world rejoiced because Merritt Paulson has been involved in all of the scandals that you've read about for the NWSL. He is responsible for covering up and ignoring abuse. He gave Paul Riley a good recommendation to move on from the Thorns. There's just a lot of reason to be happy that he's not going to be a part of women's soccer anymore. And a lot of people were happy to read this, except for a few Thorns players who released statements saying, "Thank you, Merritt," and thanking Merritt Paulson for what he's done for women's soccer, and not in an ironic way, in a very genuine way. And one of those players was Christine Sinclair.
My heart sunk. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, Sink, we were rooting for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very conflicted because everybody loves Christine Sinclair. And I think, at least for me personally, I was very confused when I read this because I was kind of like, look, if you want to thank him, that's one thing. Maybe send him a text message. But why do you feel the need to post this publicly? And we're not sitting here saying somebody is all bad or all good. We know people are all different shades. But knowing what he's done and knowing what information is public and how hurt some of your like former teammates were by this man's actions, to post that publicly, I really can't understand.
No, it makes no sense because, like you said, nobody is purely black and purely white in this instance. And I'm sure he has done some good in the women's game with the backing he's given the Thorns, and we've seen that in their dominance. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But read the room. And it's come out publicly what he did, like his actual act. You can't even say, oh, you can thank him, but, you know, he was a bit blind. It's there in the report that he moved Paul Riley on, but gave him a glowing recommendation to do so. You know? So it's like he's complicit. So I can understand why you would want to thank him for the early stages of what he's done, because he did make the Thorns great with the investment and linking them with the Timbers, which is his other team, and making them that one family, which we talk about in the WSL all the time, having those links. But as you said, you can't do it privately? You mean there's not a memo system around Portland Thorns that you could get back to him? You think he's not going to come into like your team meetings, to say goodbye? You know, there's other means and methods that's not Twitter.
Yeah, it just makes no sense to make it public. And Christine Sinclair wasn't the only one. Emily Menges, a current player, also posted something. Apparently Bella Bixby also posted something and then posted an apology about whatever she wrote.
Yeah, I only ever saw the apology. I didn't actually see what she put.
I think it got taken away so quickly. None of that totally matters except to say, then we had this kind of like player versus player with their statements, because then people like Sydney Leroux chimed in, and I just want to read what Sydney Leroux wrote because I just think it was so perfectly said and sums up everything we were just talking about, Allie. She said, quote, "When you have someone in a position of power who has covered up the abuse of your teammates and you thank him for what he's done for women's soccer, it's extremely disappointing. We ask people to support women's soccer, yet we can't even support our own. Do better."
Yeah, exactly. And that's what needs to be done, because Rue has been one of the most outspoken people socially about everything, because obviously she went through a lot. Was she a Thorn?
No, but she was at Orlando.
She was at Orlando. I knew she was at Orlando, and went through a hell at Orlando that's been very widely documented.
Mm-hmm.
And it does just feel like a slap in the face from your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, I think what everybody was so deeply upset about is, can you imagine being one of the players who first came forward about all of this abuse? Because they were Portland Thorns players. It was two former Thorns players that kicked this whole thing off. And then you see this from your captain, from one of the greatest players of all time. It's supremely disappointing. But unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it, because then there was a statement put out by the Portland Thorns that Rhian Wilkinson, the head coach of the Portland Thorns was resigning. And then Rhian Wilkinson posted something herself. And there's a lot to unpack here. And this is really, I think, what we also need to talk about. It's a very long statement. We're not going to read the whole thing.
It's out there if you want to find it.
Yeah, pause this episode if you want to go read it. It's on her Twitter. But some important points were that she resigned. She said that during her time at the Thorns, a player and her had a friendship that turned into, quote, complex emotions. She said that they essentially told each other their feelings, but knew that it couldn't evolve into anything, so they immediately stopped spending time together. And that she then reported herself to HR because she wanted to make sure that she hadn't done anything wrong. She says that her actions were investigated by the league and the Players Association by the joint investigative team in an effort to make sure all of the Portland players were safe and the power imbalance between the player and the coach didn't impact anything. But nonetheless, while the investigation found nothing, the players still asked for her resignation, and so she is obliging and resigning from her post. I mean, this is kind of a culmination of everything that's happened in the past year and a half, Allie.
If her version of events is what happened, that's probably the most grown-up reaction I have seen to that sort of dynamic, because we've seen it countless times before where managers and players have a relationship. We've seen it countless times. So if that is what actually happened, then that is the most grown-up thing. However,
I was going to say, I think you say something very important. If that's what happened. And it's not that we don't believe her. It's that... okay, here we go. Why don't you believe her?
Because it's the fact that she said that as soon as something happened, I went straight to the league. I don't believe that. I genuinely don't believe that. I think I'm more skeptical in the fact that I think maybe she may have got caught, that she may something pushed her more than her own moral compass.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't have all of the information. And the fact that the Thorns players asked for her resignation can either indicate A, there's more to this story than what is being said, or B, these players have been through so much that just the hint and the scent of something like that, they're just like, we don't even want to deal with it. I don't care if nothing happened, but now you've crossed that line and I don't want to deal with that on my team. So we're going to bring in a coach who doesn't have any feelings for any of our players, at least at the start. And then we'll see what happens. But I mean, it's not a laughing matter, but it's just, I say that this is like a year and a half culminating because the NWSL is just now putting measures in place to deal with these types of situations. So it's not going to be perfect the first time. And this is all kind of like a trial and error. And this specifically feels like a very gray area because, I mean, even in talking to people in my personal life, I've heard so many different opinions about this. I've heard from the side of the coach of saying she did everything right. She reported herself to HR and now she still has to resign. Like, that doesn't make people in that position want to report themselves. I can understand that in a way. And then there's the side of the players that we were just talking about of like, they're done with this and stuff like Casey Stoney has said of like, this should never happen, period. Like, there should never be a relationship between a coach of any sort and a player of any sort, period. The end. It's not that hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think the powers that be, that is Becky Sauerbrunn, summed it up perfectly, because instead of talking about everything that happened with Paulson and all of that, she put, giving thanks to and sending strength and love to all the women who courageously came forward to share their experiences and demanded much needed change in our league. We must continue to fight for an environment that is 100% safe, not just for some, but for all.
I love that. 100% safe. To me, that says kind of exactly what Casey Stoney has said, which is this does not happen, period. And I fully agree with that. I hope that every player can play in an environment where they don't have to deal with a coach in a relationship with a player. Because I start to think about what that would be like, and I am increasingly uncomfortable by it. Whether the coach is a woman, a man, whether the player is 20 or 30 or 40, it doesn't matter. I don't want to play on a team where I have to deal with that added layer of just crap, frankly. And you know what's also great about being able to talk about it? It's obviously just all terrible, but putting it out in the open like this, it stops normalizing it. I feel like it was normalized for so long that, you know what, it happens. But it's not, and it shouldn't be. And I think it's becoming less and less normalized right now. And I appreciate that.
That is everything for this week's women's soccer show. That is our second to last one of 2022. Next week, we're going to do a roundup of all of the football that's going on, what's gone on so far this season, what's going to happen in the future NWSL and WSL seasons. It's going to be a bumper, action-packed episode. But for now, I've been Allie.
I've been Sarah.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.